If intimacy is supposed to be a bad thing, then why did God make it feel so good?
That is
Yeah,
quite an opening line. It sounds like something from a philosophy class, maybe?
you'd think so, right? But that quote actually comes from someone in the mid-90s applying mascara in a dressing room, someone getting ready for work in an industry most people don't really associate with philosophy.
We're talking about the adult entertainment industry.
We are. And specifically about the career of a woman named Christi Lake.
It's a fantastic hook. And looking through our sources today, that really in-depth counterpunch interview, biographical data, media archives, this isn't just a biography of a performer.
No.
It feels more like a business case study. It's about agency and branding and just completely defying stereotypes.
That's it, exactly. That's the mission for this deep dive. We're not just reading a life story. We're trying to figure out how someone navigates a highly stigmatized world, turns it into a business, and somehow keeps their family and their sanity completely intact. Because the usual narrative is the tragic one, right? The crash and burn.
Oh, absolutely. The damaged goods narrative is always the default for the mainstream media.
Yeah.
But Christi Lake's career, which was roughly 95 to 2004, it's basically a 10-year argument against that.
She really challenges that whole idea that you can't be a savvy business person and an adult performer at the same time.
Right.
So let's get into this, because usually the backstory for someone entering this industry is it's complicated.
It is. Desperation, broken homes, that sort of thing. But Lake's background reads like it's from the Midwest. Because it is.
Minnesota and Michigan, I saw.
Yep. A totally standard middle-class upbringing. But what I find really fascinating is what she did for work before all of this.
Yeah.
She wasn't an aspiring actress in L.A.
No, she was doing gritty blue-collar work. I saw that in the notes. I had to read it twice. She worked in a factory.
A factory. Handling hazardous chemicals.
Yeah.
And she also worked in a video store.
Okay, the irony of the video store is just, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But the factory part, that's what sticks with me.
Why do you think that is?
Well, later she talks so much about workplace safety and, hazardous conditions in her own industry.
Right.
It just frames her perspective so differently, doesn't it? If she's coming from a job where she was literally breathing in toxic fumes for minimum wage, it completely changes the baseline for what dangerous work even looks like.
That is a brilliant point. If your alternative is a chemical plant, a film set might actually feel like a huge step up in safety. And definitely in pay.
So how did that pivot happen?
It was almost an accident. It all started with a dare.
A literal dare.
A literal dare. A friend dared her to enter an amateur night at a local club, a strip club.
Just to see if she could do it.
Just to see if she had the nerve. And what she found was she didn't just tolerate it. She actually enjoyed performing. She liked being on stage.
So she quits the factory.
Quits the factory, starts dancing full-time. But, there's a big leap from a local club in Michigan to international stardom. You need a bridge.
And that bridge was the lifestyle circuit. Right?
Exactly. She got curious about the swinger lifestyle, attended some conventions, and these weren't, seedy back alley things. They were big, organized trade shows.
Basically networking events.
That's the perfect way to put it. And that's where she got noticed. Scouted for modeling, photo shoots in New York, and that eventually led her to CES.
Hold on. CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. We should probably explain why an adult star was at a tech conference for our younger listener.
Right. Today it's all AI and drones. But back then, in the 90s, the adult industry was what drove home video technology. VHS, DVD. They were the killer app.
So they were a huge presence there.
Massive. She was there signing autographs for a magazine, and producers were just swarming her booth. You have the look. You should be in movies.
And was she into the idea right away?
Not at all. She resisted. She called it a destiny moment later. But at the time, she and a colleague were like, okay, we'll try it. As a side hustle.
A side hustle. What was the plan?
The plan was maybe 8, 10 videos a year. Dip a toe in.
And how did that work out?
Well, the market reacted instantly. She didn't do 10 videos that first year. She did 75.
75? That's more than one a week. That schedule is insane.
It's a chain reaction. But this is where the story pivots from, accidental star to business executive, because a lot of people would just ride that wave until they burn out.
But she did something different.
She did. She realized she needed a brand, something to set her apart.
And that brings us to her fan interaction series. This is, I think, the most brilliant part of her story. In '96, there was this really hard line between the performers and the audience, wasn't there?
A very hard line. The fourth wall was made of concrete. And Christi Lake decided to just smash right through it. Yeah. She launched a series, where she let actual fans apply to be in scenes with her.
That is so far ahead of its time. It's basically the invention of the creator economy, the whole idea that you, the fan, can be part of the content.
It is. It completely democratized the fantasy. She was getting 200 letters a month.
200?
From regular guys. Teachers, mechanics, accountants, all writing in for a chance to be on camera with her.
From a marketing angle, it's just genius. It creates a bond that's so much stronger than just watching a tape. You aren't just a viewer, you're a potential participant.
It's like winning the lottery. And it cemented her brand. She wasn't just a performer, she was a facilitator. And the sources say this concept spawned 1 million copycats. She proved the model.
But that creates attention, right? She's innovating, going deeper into the industry. But the social narrative, especially then, was that this work is inherently exploitative. How did she deal with that?
That's where the Counterpunch interview is so revealing. She had this incredibly articulate defense of her work. First off, she hated the P word.
Pornography.
Yes. She felt it implied abuse, filth. She always insisted on adult entertainment. And she pushed back really hard on the feminist critique that the industry is just a tool of oppression.
The whole male gaze argument.
Right. And she countered it with her own data. She pointed out her massive female following. She said women were using her films for their own enjoyment to spice up relationships.
So her logic was, if women are also consumers, you can't say it's purely a weapon against them.
Exactly. It complicates things. But she absolutely acknowledged the industry has a dark side. Bad actors.
Of course.
But for her, misogyny had a very specific definition. Sex on camera wasn't misogyny. Misogyny was when a performer was manipulated, coerced, or degraded against their will.
So consent was the only thing that mattered.
He was the absolute bright line. And she tells this story about a director named Max Hardcore to make her point.
No, he was infamous for really rough, extreme content.
Yes. And he offered her a job. The victim narrative would say she'd feel pressured, right, for money or her career.
But that's not what happened.
No. She did her homework. She watched his work, saw what it was, and basically said, you know what? Not for me. No, thank you.
And there were no repercussions.
None. They remained professional. She drew a boundary, and it was respected. She used it to show that performers have the power of no. She even compared it to construction work.
Back to her blue-collar roots.
Exactly. She said, if you have a bad back, you don't take a job hauling drywall. If you aren't comfortable with that kind of scene, you don't work with that director. It's a workplace safety decision, not a moral failing.
That is such a pragmatic way to look at it, just stripping the morality away and framing it as occupational hazard assessment.
It is. And speaking of safety, she was a huge advocate for health protocols.
Yeah.
This was during the big HIV scares in the industry.
Right.
She pushed for condom use on screen. She wanted to normalize it to show that responsible intimacy could still be part of the fantasy.
So you have this person who is an innovator, who sets firm boundaries, advocates for safety. Sounds like a CEO. So why did the mainstream media always want to tell a different story?
She had a name for that. She called it the car crash syndrome.
Meaning you can't look away from the wreckage?
Precisely. She would criticize shows like Nightline, saying they're not interested in the happy accountant story. It's boring. They want the tragedy, the addiction, the fallout.
Because a happy adult performer is a headline that messes with people's worldview. If she's happy, you can't pity her.
And if you can't pity her, you might have to question your own judgment. It just complicates the script. But she did get to poke fun at that script herself. Did you see the story about 6 Feet Under?
I did. It's hilarious. She was cast on the HBO show to play an adult film star.
Yes. But the reason she got the part is the best bit. The script specifically called for bad adult movie acting. You know, the really over-the-top fake stuff.
The cliche pizza delivery guy scene acting.
That's the one. So she gets to the audition, sees the cue, and just delivers this ridiculously loud fake performance. And the casting directors just burst out laughing.
Because she was in on the joke.
She was in on the joke. She got the part because she is self-aware enough to parody her own industry.
That's amazing. But she would also defend it as a legitimate art form, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She gave this one example of a fetish video with chocolate and feet.
Okay, a very specific niche.
Very specific. But her point was about the cinematography, the lighting, the composition. She said even if you don't share the fetish, you can still appreciate the visual art of it.
Let's pivot to her personal life, because this is usually where these stories fall apart. The family.
The estrangement,
Yeah.
the drama.
Gar.
And again, Christi Lake just breaks the mold. She told her parents about her career and her father's response. It just cuts through all the hypocrisy.
What did he say?
He said, and this is a quote, Why would we be upset about you doing something that we actually watch ourselves?
Wow. I mean, talk about radical honesty.
It totally disarms the judgment, doesn't it? And it wasn't just private support. There's this incredible story about an award show. She won a big one, and she brought her parents up on stage with her to accept it.
You're kidding. Mom and Dad on stage at an adult film awards ceremony.
Holding the trophy. It just speaks to this profound level of support she had. She felt that because her foundation was so solid, the industry couldn't really shake her.
And what about relationships? That's the other stereotype, that they're all doomed.
Her solution was integration. Her long-term partner worked with her. She actually taught him videography.
So he was behind the camera?
He was running the set. So there was no mystery, no jealousy. He saw it was a job, she saw it was a job, and at the end of the day, they went home together. It was just business.
And she tried to pass that professional mindset on.
She did. She was mentored by Nina Hartley, a legend, and she took mentoring the next generation very seriously. She would warn new performers, the internet is forever.
That was incredibly prescient for the late 90s.
Totally. She'd tell them, once it's out there for good. If you have even 1% of doubt, just don't do it. She wanted to make sure they had the same agency she did.
So she has this incredible decade-long run. Innovates, builds her brand, makes her money, and then what?
And then she walked away. She retired from performing around 2004. She was 40.
Which is a pretty solid career in an industry so focused on youth.
A great run. She said 40 just felt like a good place to stop. She left on her own terms, no scandal, no tragedy, just retirement. She made the Hall of Fame and moved on.
So when we zoom out, what's the real takeaway from this deep dive? Her story.
I think the lesson is about the complexity of agency. We want things to be black and white, exploitation or empowerment. But Christi Lake's career exists entirely in that gray area.
She forces you to confront that happy performer paradox.
Exactly. If she's happy and successful and we still feel uncomfortable about it, then that discomfort is on us. It makes you ask, is the problem the industry or is it the story we've been told about the industry?
She challenged the world to tolerate her success, even if they didn't approve of her choices.
And that might be her greatest legacy. Not the films, but the proof that you can navigate that world and come out whole on the other side.
An amazing case study in entrepreneurship from a place you'd least expect it. From a chemical factory to the Hall of Fame.
A pioneer, absolutely.
Well, thanks for walking us through this one. It really does change how you look at the business of fantasy.
My pleasure.
And thanks to you for listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive.